around it. It's gonna get difficult to stand, but hold your balance. I just say whatever, cause there is no way you're around it. Everyone falls down sometime, but you just gotta know it'll all be fine. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed, never stressed. Got that sunshine on my Sunday best. Hey, some days you wake up and nothing works, you feel surrounded. Gotta give your feet some gravity to get you grounded. Keep
Welcome
good
to
things
Isla
inside your
Earth.
ears,
For
just
over
like the waves and
200,000
sound
years,
it.
Iriomote
And just
cat
say
lived in
whatever, cause
isolation
there
on a
is
tiny
no way
island
you're
between Taiwan
grounded.
and Japan. More
Everyone
recently, however,
falls down
Iriomote Island has become a
sometime,
popular
but you
tourist
just gotta
destination.
know
While it may
it'll
look for
all
some like
be
its
fine.
domesticated
It's
cousin,
okay.
Iriomote is a wild animal that hasn't exactly taken
It's
to
okay.
Hotels to accommodate
It's
more than
okay.
350,000 guests
Feeling
each year
good.
were built right on top of its habitat. Adding insult to injury, the island's only main thoroughfare splits the habitat right down the middle. Development has diminished habitat, and as a result, the pool of prey, such as small mammals, birds, lizards, and snakes, is smaller. And since 1978, at least 41 Iriomote cats died trying to cross the road. Listed as critically endangered, it's estimated that only 100 Iriomote cats still exist in the wild. To protect them, a feeding program has been established, and the Iriomote Wildlife Conservation Center created 80 roadway underpasses and a recovery center. Hopefully, these and other efforts will preserve this unique species, but those lucky enough to spot one should never mistake it for a house cat. It only thrives in the wild. Learn more at islaearth.org. Isla Earth is produced by the Catalina Island Conservancy through its Fund for a Sustainable Planet, because Earth is an island. The 90-Second Naturalist.
Hi there, I'm Thane Maynard. Pretty much anywhere you look, you are guaranteed to see a member of the animal class Insecta. That's because, by a long shot, insects are the most successful creatures on Earth. In fact, nobody knows how many species of insect there may be. Of the current 1.5 million known plant and animal species, about two-thirds are insects. However, a conservative estimate is that there are at least 9 million living species on Earth, and that as many as 90% may be insects. Reason for insect success include their tiny size, which both makes hiding easier and reduces overall energy requirements, their wide diet and habitats, their tough protective exoskeletons, their possession of wings, and their prodigious ability to reproduce. And most numerous of all insects are the beetles. There are over 380,000 species described to date, making up 40% of all insect species on the books. But ants outnumber the beetles in sheer numbers. It's estimated that there are about 10 quadrillion ants in all. For perspective, that's over 1.4 million ants per human.
The 90-Second Naturalist is a production of Cincinnati Public Radio and the Cincinnati Zoo, and is supported by the
Did
Garing
you know
Center
here at
for Family
KCAA
and
1050 AM that we developed an app for all your Android devices? We're talking about your smartphone, your tablets, you name it. You have an Android format, you can take KCAA with you everywhere you go. We're talking about our audio stream, our video stream, and even our podcast. Go to KCAAexpress.com. That's KCAAexpress.com. KCAAexpress.com.
If you're looking for a full or part-time sales position, you have
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
NBC News Radio, I'm Rob Martier. At least 2 deaths are being blamed on severe weather that ripped through the state of Oklahoma. Brian Gann has more.
Oklahoma Emergency Management reports a man and a child died in the town of Holdenville, where homes were destroyed. Damage is also being reported in a number of other communities, including the small town of Morris, where Jeff Moore with Okmulgee County Emergency Management says crews were on standby as the storm hit.
After everything cleared, we started responding to the area to do cleanup and search and rescue operations.
Governor Kevin Stitt has declared a state of emergency for a dozen counties.
The National Weather Service says the outbreak of severe weather also caused widespread damage in parts of Iowa, Nebraska, Texas, and Kansas. The niece of an Israeli-American hostage being held by Hamas in Gaza believes a hostage deal can be reached. Hannah Siegel told CBS's Face the Nation the Biden administration has shown it's committed to getting the hostages home. Hannah Siegel is the niece of Keith Siegel, who's been held hostage by the militant group for more than 6 months. Hamas released a video of Israeli hostages over the weekend, including Keith Siegel. He was kidnapped along with his wife during the October 7th attack on Israel. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell says the abortion issue will be sorted out at the state level. During an interview on NBC's Meet the Press, McConnell said he doesn't think a national abortion ban would even be able to pass.
I don't think we'll get 60 votes in the Senate for any kind of national legislation.
Democrats have made abortion a top campaign issue heading into the November elections as states across the country have implemented strict abortion laws following the end of Roe v. Wade. Taylor Swift is smashing records once again. The singer's latest album, The Tortured Poets Department, is the first album in Spotify's
Poseidon Valley Tree Service reminds listeners that during these trying times, blood supply levels are critically low, making blood donations essential. Take the time to donate blood today. Visit redcross.org to find a location near you or call 1-800-RED-CROSS and schedule your donation today. This reminder courtesy of Poseidon Valley Tree Service, proudly serving the area with their full range of tree service for over 15 years. For tree trimming and service, mulch installation, and more, call 909-855-0264. That's 909-855-0264. Or visit treeservicelakearrowhead.com. That's Poseidon Valley Tree Service, on the air because they care. 1 in every 5 Americans are affected by a mental health disorder. If you or a loved one is suffering from depression, anxiety, or looking for alternatives to pain management, the time is now to put yourself first and learn about all the benefits of CBD. This special message is from Highway 138 CBD. For any questions or for all your CBD needs, stop in at 235 East Palmdale Boulevard, where they serve a wide variety of high-quality products. Call today, 661-944.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Spear, a licensed agent with Litchfield Insurance Associates here in Beaumont. A large portion of Americans don't have life insurance or don't have enough. Whether you need a temporary policy, something to help with income during retirement, or making sure your final expenses are taken care of, having life insurance is an act of love and security for your whole family. Having a local trusted agent makes navigating through the sometimes complex world of life insurance so much easier. And I would love to be the one to help you. I'm Kaylee Spear. For your free consultation, people are calling 951-769-0005. 951-769-0005.
Hi there, this is Chris Klein, investment manager for Capstone Wealth Management. Hey, I've been through the early 1990s bond market implosion, the late 1990s stock market melt-up, the 2000 to 2002 dot-com crash, the rate hike scare in the mid-2000s, the great financial crisis, the pandemic-induced 2020 collapse, the inflation madness, and, of most recent memory, the 2022 bear market. You know what all these have in common? We helped people just like you navigate their finances through. Hey, my boys say I'm old, but I say I'm battle-tested. Not only that, but I've seen the underbelly of Wall Street, and I know how to call a turd. Sometimes the best investment is the one you don't make. But without experience, how would you ever really know? I can help. I've been blessed to work for a lot of people who have entrusted tens of millions of dollars of their hard-earned capital to me and my team. When you become a part of the Capstone family, you are treated like family. If you'd like to see how we can successfully manage your money and to find out if there's a fit, let's start a conversation. The best way to do that is to shoot us an email. info@careformywealth.com. That's info@careformywealth.com. One more time, info.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. It's Sunday night, so we got to bless the show. You know how it goes. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. All right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website. So if you got to get out of your car, type in KCAAradio.com on your device, your laptop, your smartphone, or go and download the app. Yes, KCAA Radio has an app. So now we're literally all over the world now for sure. So you can download the app, whatever platform you use to get your streaming platforms. Go get the app and listen to us live. Or at the website, click Listen Live or Watch Live, and you can catch us on the deck right now. Shouts out to my Sports Collective TV, media, and radio crew. They are out doing their thing. Shouts out to Coach Will and Robert Lamar in the zone and the Heme Factor. We'll be coming back soon, so just stay tuned for all of that. Instagram is at Sports Collective Media if you want to be a guest on the sports part of the show. At Farron Dozier if you want to be a guest on the variety show. Either way, hit me up. You can catch me Saturdays at 7 on Lit Live. It used to be Dash Radio for the Revolution Radio show. That airs Saturdays at 7 and again Sundays at 5. You can catch me on MBR Radio on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time for the military show, the Farron Dozier show, the Trench Talk segment over there. The Beyond 2D, where we talk about life, me and Jessica. Every second and fourth Tuesday is our show called Beyond 2D. What else? The Blog Talk show is coming back, especially for May. May is Lupus Awareness Month. I'm a lupus supporter, so we are working on having a lupus episode for that entire month on Thursdays, and a couple episodes here on Sunday night as well. So I'm not going to say who one of the guests that we're looking at, but his daughter has lupus, and he's a rapper. So I'll let you figure who that is. What else? I think that's it. Yeah. I'm not alone tonight. Everybody can turn your mics up. Turn your mics on. I got my man, a.k.a. DBC, Jody. If you've seen us on social media, we advocate for sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease together. You might have seen us performing the Battle of the Genes. He's not new here. We've been together for about 12 years doing shows. What's up, man?
Probably longer than that.
Probably longer than at least 2011. Yes. So yeah, because I met you. Yeah, so probably about 2011. What's up, man?
Oh man, I'm just ready to do this show, man. I'm excited.
Yeah.
For our guests, and I'm a little nervous, but I'm good.
Cool. Introduce yourself. Just tell them a little bit about you.
My name is Jody Johnson, a.k.a. DBC, Driven by Christ. Born and raised in Chicago, South Side. I'm a Christian rapper. I advocate for sickle cell trait awareness. I was born with sickle cell out of 11 siblings. And I just thank God that I'm still here to give him praise with my gifts.
All right. And to the far right, Jada, you want to introduce yourself? Pull it up too. Pull the mic. There
goodness.
You
go. So my name is Jada Clark. I'm the one half of the House of Rahab, and then I also am an entrepreneur. I own my own body care company, and so I'm nervous too, but excited to be here. So
sure, thank you for hanging out. Yes, and the one next to me here, we're not strangers. Shouts out to Robert Lamar. Leslie I interviewed Leslie, 2016 probably. She was on our sports show over there. What was it? Back then it was Sports Announce Live. We were doing LA Talk Live. Track star, y'all. Don't sleep. Introduce yourself. Oh, whatever. Go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Hey, everyone. So my name is Leslie. I am the other half of my friend Jada here of House of Rahab Ministry. By day, I am a social worker and therapist. And I'm excited to be here like the rest of the panel, extremely nervous. But like I explained to you off air, that I realized that when you are required to minister the gospel and lift Jesus' name high, if you are nervous, you need to go lower so he can be risen up. So I think we're good.
Yeah, we're going to be good. All right. It's brought to you by Comigo, our public service announcement. You got that? You can set up our PSA. Should say Veterans PSA or something in there. Okay, go ahead. So yeah, as we talked about, Jody and myself, we are sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease advocates. I have the trait myself. I collapsed in the military. was medically retired 24 years in the midst of depression, anxiety, suicide ideation. God showed me that this sickle cell trait was my gift, and I was able to become an advocate. Made it through that depression stage, so I'm back in church, managing all that. But then meeting Jody and becoming those advocates for sickle cell and sickle cell trait, we've done a lot of work together. And so one of the things that we're looking to
Are you having sickle sex?
do together,
Sex.
not that one,
Yeah,
no.
sickle sex.
It's a veteran one. It's a video. And so we are out speaking. We've done churches, high schools, colleges, health fairs, blood drives, military bases. He and I go to the military base where I collapsed. And so if you want information about that, wdconSCT.org. It is a very important conversation. African Americans, we are number one. However, it is not a skin color gene. It is an inherited gene. So you can be Caucasian, Mediterranean, Asian. The Hispanic is number 2 behind us as well. So it has a purpose. It combats malaria. So each culture has their own type of red blood cell condition that combats malaria. So you have C trait, D trait, OARAB, thalassemia trait. And sometimes those couples have either one of those, and they pass that to that child, and they're born with a type of sickle cell disease. So we bring awareness to that. Again, with athletes and collapsing in the military as well. Military personnel have died and collapsed from that. Athletes have collapsed, so we advocate for that athletic community, the military community, but just people. And so it's very important. Sometimes I forget that how important this conversation is, but we are working on a Battle of the Genes tour so that we can go out to some HBCUs, maybe take on California first and do some colleges around here. But ultimately, we want to just make sure people get that awareness and information. A lot of families, they say about 96% of the people who have had children with sickle cell disease didn't know they were trait carriers, or their partner didn't know. And so our point is to not say you can't have children, but to give that family an opportunity to have a choice before they have that child. So a lot of times it's been after the fact. So you can't find, don't worry about it. Okay. A lot of times it's after the fact. And so we want to just make sure that these family members in the future have a choice and they are aware of what's possible. That's all. So as we're working out the public service announcement for Call Me Go, we're just going to have a conversation right off the top. Putting this show together, been a long time coming. Long time coming. And so they have some work that they're up to, but I wanted this first conversation just to be an introduction to the community about who they are and what they're up to. And then we're just going to have different topics, different conversations for the next few minutes. So one of the things that Spirit gave me to talk about was our purpose, passions, and our gift. And I believe that would kind of lead into what you two are up to in the world. But Jada, let's go back with you first. Who was Jada growing up as a young child?
Well, I'm born and raised in New York City.
New York City.
I have been in California now for about 15, 16 years.
Okay.
But I'm still a New Yorker.
Okay, you good.
I grew up with a single mother. And then when I was about 13, I was given, I guess that's the right terminology. I was given over to my aunt.
Okay.
Not because my mom was anything.
Yeah.
She wasn't dealing with anything specific. It just, I think, easier at the time to
understand.
That's a whole nother story. Right?
How was that? How was that for you in that transition?
Transition?
Yeah. How was that?
I think it was kind of, I was dealing with a lot emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was actually happy. I almost think that wasn't the goal in trying to get transition to my aunt, because I didn't know she was going to take me. I was just trying to get a particular person out my house.
Ah, gotcha.
Right? And so that didn't work.
Yeah.
So I got put out the house. And I went to my aunt, and it, life kind of blossomed from there.
That's cool.
And I was able to, blossom and grow and kind of turn into who I am today.
For sure.
Yeah. So, that's me.
All right, we'll leave it there. Leslie, just share a little bit about who Leslie was growing up.
Oh. Leslie, growing up, you know how me and my mom were just having this conversation a little while ago. You know how we're talking about gifts and purposes, and we come in, God has gifted us with certain characteristics, and then he just magnifies that. And I was always the kid that talked a lot. I was loud. I was aggressive / assertive. And really personable, and those things always got me into trouble, which is really interesting in how it funneled me into the work that I'm doing now. My childhood was, I was raised middle class, mother and father. My mother and father were married up until he passed away, so a total of 34 years.
Yeah.
And it was a relatively, we didn't have a perfect life, but it was a stable life, right? Which, again, helped funnel me into, because I was experiencing the type of love, the unconditional love that a lot of people aren't familiar with and didn't experience. I wanted to be able to spread that when I got older, and I just didn't know what that meant. But growing up, I was always awarded in sports. Jada, too, was an athlete, track athlete. But
oh, here we go.
Yeah. Always awarded most inspirational, et cetera, et cetera. And it was literally the pouring out of what I believe I was gifted very early. Yeah. So, you know, me and Jada are cutting out a lot of
course,
the meat, but that's about the basics of
So this whole track, you got something you want to
I was going to say,
add to that?
just to kind of add to that, I think that's why our union is so unique, because we grew up completely different. We grew up literally on different coasts, you know, so even our perspectives and outlooks on life are completely different. But somehow we come together under the covenant of the Lord, right? Yeah. And we just merge really well. And so we're able to kind of bring each other different perspectives and see other things in a way that maybe we wouldn't have seen. And so it works.
It does.
Let's talk about this track life for a little bit. You competed against each other, or same team, or just different?
We just happened to have run track. No, I would have never been able to compete with this one. I was C class compared to this one.
I don't know what she's talking about. Yeah. I don't even know how she's coming up with this information.
Based off of numbers, based off of statistics. But yeah, it was one of those like small things. Once we met each other a few years ago, it was like, oh, you used to run track? I used to run track. And then
what event you used to run? Oh, I ran this. Yeah.
We ran the same events and when, you know, so it was just, yeah.
I mean, New York is a little bit, I would say maybe the East Coast is a little bit different than California. We run track all year round. So I started running track when I was about 7, 8 years old, which I'm not sure what they call it out here, but it's club track.
Club track, okay.
And so, I mean, I was in a club track from 7 to 8 years old, all the way up through college. And
so let me ask both of you about this, because as part of the sports show, we're going to tap into that sports segment right now. For you, Jada, that mental toughness, that identity, did you develop that identity in running track?
Yeah, because I was nice. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like, you know, I wasn't
shameless plug.
Yeah. I think I was just good. I didn't realize I was good. My mom ran track, my aunt ran tracks. I came from like not a real track family, but my aunt ran track, my mom ran track, my uncle ran track. And so it was one of those things. One day my mom was like, you gonna like put you in something because you got too much energy. So she put me in track, and I ran cross country. It was like a mile, and my first time I was, and I think I came in like second or third place. And then after that, she was like, you're in it. and then, you know, as I got older, I hated running long distance.
Yeah.
That was not fun, but I was actually good at it. So I was, my primary race was 800, and then the 1,000 indoors, and the 1,500.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. So different time zones, but kind of on the same similar path.
Mhm.
And here we are today,
Yeah.
working together in the joint forces of creating another establishment together
Yeah,
as a
definitely.
team. Interesting. Jody, tell them who you are a little bit, man. Growing up as a child in Chicago. Chicago.
I was always in the hospital.
Yeah.
I was a mama's boy. I really couldn't go to school. I got kicked out of kindergarten because the kids was afraid of me because my eyes were so jaundiced. So I got homeschooled a lot. So as I got older, that sheltered me, and I only had trust in my mom because the love that she gave me is the reason why I'm still here.
Yeah.
She gave me God's love and planted that seed when I was a child. And the gift of music always been there because when I was sick, my mom used to sing to me, to take my mind off of my pain.
Yeah.
And then what changed my life really was when I had to go to a challenging school, kids with disabilities, kids that wear the helmets. And I'm like, Mom, why do I have to go to this school? And she said, 'cause you're special. I said, what do you mean I'm special? And I'm so thankful that I went because it gave me love for all types of people.
Yeah.
Because when we are born, we're born for a purpose.
Yeah.
That's right.
And our purpose is to share our gifts. Like you run track. I look at that as a spiritual race that we all in. Like right now, there are so many broken homes right now, and I was fortunate enough to have both of my parents. But my dad always worked. He worked 2 and 3 jobs. I was always at home with my mom, and she raised all 11 of us. And thank God none of us got into gangs, and I'm just grateful. I truly miss her. She passed in '99, and my dad passed in 2012. And I just thank God that they raised me the right way because I refuse to live my life without Christ. And that's my purpose,
Yeah. I think for me, just for myself to touch, I realized I was a very emotional child. And those transitions for me were emotionally wounds. My parents were married, and then my mom had me, and 2 years into that, her going to work and dropping me off with my grandparents. One day my grandparents great idea, leave them with us, and just pick them up on the weekends and do your thing so you don't have to get up in the morning and drop them off, come back and pick them up. Like all that, which made sense, beautiful, but they didn't understand child development. And so for some children, that transition from now leaving my mom at 2 to now being with my grandmother, I was disconnected from my mom now. So when she would pick me up, I would cry because I want to be at mama's house. And so those emotional little fractures, I had a lot of them. I discovered 10 so far.
Wow.
And to go back and peel those off and realize that even though those transitions were challenging for me, it was still the beauty of it. Right. And so as the mind of a child, I had no perception of what time was as an 8-year-old. Like we don't think about, we just want our parents. We just want, our time from our parents. And so for me, those didn't play out until the transition out of the service. I said depression, all that stuff surfaced. And to be able to go back and restore that and heal that and reconnect with my parents like they were brand new, but at 40. And so that's one thing for me that's important today is how do we teach that? As Jody said, the homes are broken these days. And even though people think, well, if it's one parent or 2 parents, sometimes it's 2 parents in the house and they're still not there because it's the parent, that father could be so driven that he's got to be at work. But the child, again, that child wants that time of that father. And so that's the piece that gets broken. And then whatever the child makes it mean about themselves, I'm not worth it, I'm not good enough. We all live with those silent I'm nots. But to discover where those are coming from, like to me, that's something that's very important. And what I get to do today alongside of the sickle cell trait awareness is using the word of God to restore relationships. So now our sickle cell trait talk for me is not just the afflictions, because we all have, we're all going to be born with some type of illness or disease, or we develop something Watching too much CNN could be an affliction because people are so upset about what's going on in the world. So understanding that in the Word now, and then understanding that my sickle cell trait was my gift, and it connects me to these families, and then our children, like to go back and now help people reconnect with their parents. Like, to me, that's so important. So that's what we get to do today. So I wanted to go and play this public service announcement real quick. By Comigo. This is dedicated to veterans. However, if we tell the truth to ourselves, it's a human being condition that people deal with panic attacks, different types of depression, anxiety. And this device, for those of you like myself who don't want to use drugs, the Comigo device can help you with your breathing. And they say that if you can control your breathing, you can calm yourself down. So this is one of the devices here called Comigo. It's dedicated for veterans, but again, if you feel like you can utilize this, make sure you check them out. This is Comigo.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Comigo. Comigo is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Comigo decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Comigo.com to learn how you can get Comigo through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
All right, welcome back.
So that's for vets
to the Farron Dozier. Huh? No, it's not for vets only. No, they want to get this into the VA, and so as a veteran myself, I'm like, why not? Let's support it so veterans can get it as a prescription and not have to pay for it out of pocket. But you can order it. Anybody can order it.
Yeah, give me the information.
Yeah, it's important. It's important. Like I said, I didn't want it. I fought for a long time. I took some pills early on, and I just felt like a zombie. Like I'm like, I don't want to live like that. So I used personal development courses. Like I stayed away from the drugs, and then I met this company a couple years back, and then here they are as a sponsor for the show. So let's talk about purpose as we get into the reason why y'all here, if y'all gonna get that far into it. Before you got into church, when you heard purpose, like, did it mean anything back then? Before that walk?
Well, I mean, I feel like I grew up in the church. I used to go with my grandmother, and that's when church was like 8 hours long.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And one of the reasons why I got good at track was so I wouldn't have to go to the 8-hour church service.
You can go
rehearse. But I think for me, I feel like I don't necessarily think that I knew what purpose was in the scope of Christ, right? But I definitely knew that purpose meant that I was supposed to do something.
Yeah.
Didn't know what that was. In my mind, my purpose was I was supposed to be an Olympic runner. And that's really the only reason why I went to college. I didn't have a plan B.
Yeah.
I went undecided as long as I could possibly go because that was my purpose. That was not my purpose in real life.
But I wanted to go there because a lot of us come to Christ at different times of life, and so in the world they have a whole conversation about what purpose in life is, and sometimes it's driven from that identity in sports or whatever that is. So that's why I wanted to say before that walk, what was for you purpose?
Before Christ, I didn't even consider purpose.
Yeah.
Like, to be very honest with you, I was not raised in the church. I didn't come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ until my latter teens. And then, of course, different chains of events, and then you rededicate yourself, and then rededicate yourself, and rededicate yourself because you're not getting it right the first 20 times right. But I started realizing, like after I came to Christ, I started realizing that I was made for more than what I was currently doing. So the line of work that I'm in now, I didn't start there. I started as a logistics coordinator, and I would, things that you see in the stores, I was helping bring those in, clearing them in customs, speaking of brokers. And I can remember bringing in this man's products, and he cussed me out.
Oh.
And I was like, you have enough money to get the product to where you need to distribute it to, and you are willing to forego or curse out or lose dignity or be indecent for the sake of the dollar bill. Wow. And I knew then, I was like,
this ain't it.
It's got to be something. It's got to be something more than this.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of me trying to find what God created me for. Because there is a reason why we look the way that we look. We come through the people that we come through. We're we have the experiences that we have. Where we're connected to the people that we're connected to. Everything is intentional.
Yeah. Right.
And it was at that point that I said, well, God, you created me, and there is something that I have to do for you.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that thing?
Yeah.
And God basically blew my mind on what purpose was. Yeah.
I tell you mine, I grew up kind of like you in church my whole life pretty much, and just hearing purpose, passions, gifts like that about, growing up in the environment. But I joined the military because my uncle asked me what was I going to do after high school. Talk about the transitions. My identity was in basketball since 7th grade because I moved around so much, and so I made friends on the court, so that was my identity. But then in that military career, I thought that was it. Like, hey, I'm going to do these 20 years, be done with it, retire, sit on the dock of the bay, watch the tires roll away and whistle and just kind of hang out. But then when that affliction with that trade happened, and in the midst of that, life is over, just something in my spirit was like, there's got to be something better than this. And I was 39, and I'm like, there's got to be something better. And my mom was praying for me to find something. And then, like I said, my friends introduced to this education, personal development courses, and it was a start.
Right.
And in that education, they talked about after you discovered all this stuff that you made up that wasn't true, now why were you born? What's your purpose? And then my heart said, oh, that stuff is in the Bible because that's what my grandparents taught, said. So I went back to the Word and found my purpose in the Word as well. So how about you, Jody? Growing up, when did you, before Christ, what was you thinking about? Who was you going to be?
Well, I was always into dancing. I did a couple of videos and going to clubs and all that, but I wasn't happy. Yeah. I only went to clubs because I would go to work, then go to happy hour, just to cover my pain, But I knew I wasn't happy until one day my brother saved my life at a club. I got sucker punched for no reason because I was dancing, This guy just put on some brass knuckles. I'm a little bitty guy. I was short. I'm like almost 6'1" now, but I was shorter then because by having sickle cell, we're late bloomer. You know what I mean? We grow later. So when I got hit that night, I knew I needed Christ. I was in the hospital. My dad took me to the hospital, and I told my brother, I said, man, I don't want to go home to my mom like this. Yeah. But he said, nah, man, I got to take you home. So he took me home, and I was in the hospital. And while I was in the hospital, the Lord visited me, and also death came. And
you good?
And when my mom came to visit me that next day, I said, Mom, I'm going to die. And she said, no, son, why you say that? I said, I don't know, Mom, I feel like I'm going to die. So God started dealing with me in dreams a lot. and I would have dreams about music and stuff, and I knew music was my purpose, even though I was working. So my wife led me to Christ in 1994, and that's when I got filled with the Holy Spirit and found my purpose.
Yeah.
But when she died, I lost a little bit of that purpose.
For sure.
You know, but it made me stronger because I had 2 daughters to raise.
Yeah.
So my music is my purpose. It's not on that. It's what we doing.
Yeah.
Sickle cell work that we doing. We saving other people's lives.
Yeah, that's purpose.
You know, that's purpose. And then we're happy in doing
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
There's so many people working and they millionaires and they're miserable.
Yeah. It's not about money.
So that's how I found my purpose.
That next one that of course purpose and then passion for me, even how I got to be in front of you today on the radio, was a passion because during my depression and anxiety and all that, I lost interest. Huge sports fan back in the day, going to the bars, watching games, knew all the highlights and all of that. But in that depression, I lost interest in that. So one day my friend was like, why don't you go do like a sports show or something, like get your mind off of whatever you're dealing with. And back then it was Blog Talk in 2009. And so I went online and found that, and I created an account, and I had my phone line and my laptop. And I found a guy that was in Boston who was posting on Facebook sports stuff. And I reached out to him and asked him if he would be my partner in that show. And we did shows every Monday, and then we went to Wednesdays. But I was so nervous then that I was drinking cranberry juice and vodka like an hour before, because it was like the first shows at the house. And so it was like, first time, I don't know who was listening, if anybody's going to listen, but I was so nervous. So before that hour, I would like have that sip, and we would log in, and he would do most of the talking. I knew how to talk trash, but he really held the show down. But during that show, in that same process, I discovered my sickle cell trait was my trigger and why I collapsed. And then I started doing research about that, and I started interviewing people with sickle cell and the families and the people with the trait. And then I saw that athletes had collapsed and died, so then it connected to sports. So it's like that, living into that show weekly kept me alive. Like, it became a passion. And so for the last 14 years, I've been doing all types of talk shows as a passion, not trying to get paid from it or anything. It's just the influence and the love for it. Passion. What comes to mind when you think about how your passion started to develop?
Yeah, I'm thinking about how when you know that God has called you, that in itself brings passion, right? And how I was thinking about it. I went back into my mind about purpose and the experience that you had with the Lord in the hospital room, and how God called me very early. I was in my very early 20s. Mm-hmm. And I remember being at Bible study, because, sometimes they will have noonday Bible study. And I was at the Bible study, and right in front of me, there was a row of women, and there were young girls, and then there was a younger woman at the end of the row, and then an older woman at the end of the other row. And I can tell that this was some type of group home or foster youth. This was something, and these two women had brought this row of girls to receive the word. Wow. And the Lord spoke to me and said, you will help girls. You will help women. Wow. At 24, I didn't know what that meant, right? I had no clue what that meant. I don't even think I had my undergrad degree at that time yet. And so you sweep it under the rug because you don't get it. It doesn't have any context to it, right? And I was still at that time understanding the voice of God and recognizing that it's not you being crazy. Like, this isn't your subconscious, right? And years later, I see the manifestation of and that is my purpose. My purpose is me and Jada talk about this all the time, to know God and make him known. Yes. That's our vertical and horizontal responsibility is to know God and make him known, and he gives us purposes within those purposes, right? Because I've noticed in my life, because like you, I was in my mid 30s when God called me to go back to school, mid to latter 30s to get my MSW degree. And I'm realizing that every opportunity that is afforded to me, it's because I've said yes to his call for the previous purpose that he put in front of me. It's a domino effect.
Yeah.
And that's my passion. My passion is that, and the reverential fear of not getting it right and not getting it done. That's, I don't want that well done, my good and faithful servant.
I want to hear that. Yes.
Right? Like it's that piece. It's and that means so much more than anything else that we're hearing. So that's where my passion drives me, is to make sure. And you were talking about like the emotions and battling with depression, and that's been a new phenomena for me, and me being in the mental health sector and recognizing that even the depression is a spirit, and trying and getting some authority over that, right?
Taking you off track.
Yes, and that's what in the Greek, the devil means to take you off course, right? Yes. So recognizing that we need to have Jesus as our forefront in order for us to even have reason, have passion, have purpose. I'm going.
I appreciate that. Jada?
I'm really trying to be very generic here.
You can't be generic on the Farron Dozier show. There's no generics here.
I mean, because
there's no generics.
I'm really trying to do my best at being the most generic, give the most generic answers, really, because
it's not going to be,
oh my goodness.
Not after all that you heard.
I know, right? So, I mean, I think it's one of the reasons why Leslie and I are like literally connected, because we have very similar, like, call-ins in the sense of like helping women, and I'm a mom now, and more recently it's been really on me to help, not just single mothers, but boys and parents. And so like some of my friends, I have a really, I wouldn't say it's like the best, right, but a really good co-parenting situation with my son's father.
Sure.
And a lot of that has been through God himself, because I tell you. But my friends will call me like, oh, my friend is having a problem with her son's father or her daughter's, and they'll call me and say like, can you talk to them? And I'm like, why? I'm not like I'm not an expert in this, but I think as far as how the passion with the purpose, I'm really trying to be generic. So when I was younger, I was molested by my stepfather. And in that, I think that's kind of where the passion started. I was in college, didn't know God's voice at all. But I remember being in college my freshman year and God saying to me, you're going to help women like you.
For sure.
Like me. I didn't know what that meant, like me in track, me, but I think once I hadn't been to church. As soon as we could run track on a Sunday, I was out. Right. So I didn't actually get back into the Word of God or into church or into relationship with the Lord until maybe in my 20s when I moved to Vegas, which is not even a place to be at, people. And that's where I got baptized and everything. And that was when God started really pushing me to do certain things where, I would speak sometimes for different things. But that was really kind of where the passion started and kind of moved into where the purpose is, right? And now that I'm a mom, it's like really wanting to help people, just help more so like the youth, because if we can help them, they won't get to us.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
We can make those corrections early.
Exactly. So
early in age.
That's kind of me and Leslie will always say like, man, we're gonna have this house and we're gonna help all these women and their kids, but she did like an internship where you work for school. She worked in a school, and that's when it kind of transitioned into, we always talk about the youth and the boys and how it starts with the boys, right? Because
the men are
the leaders, you know what I mean? And so that's really kind of where the passion has kind of pivoted, right?
Yeah.
It's more so we still want to help women, right? Because we are women.
Yes, for sure.
But it's all inclusive now.
Yeah.
I thank you for sharing that, because a lot of women need to understand that those things happen, and like I said, you can feel that God, we have a lot of experiences that we go through that God, the domino effect, can use us to deliver the message. So we're born with messages, and some people might not look at that as a message to deliver, but for sure that is not uncommon in our society. With what happens with us, because boys too. My cousin, my male cousin, got me.
Yes.
And we were children.
Yes.
Right. And so I had to peel that off to see how that affected me as a male, as an adult.
Right.
And I had to do the work around that to just be okay with that. And when I shared with my mom, she wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
Because of his environment. So it was like, what? But I was in my 40s when I was able to have the confidence, the courage to tell my mom, hey, what happened to me at 5 years old, 7 years old.
Yeah.
So just saying that those are conversations that God allows us to go through and to deliver, even if it's a circumstance like that there's still some strength and something that He can use that for, to His glory. So I appreciate you for sharing that way. Did you want to say something before I pass it?
Yeah, no, I just, Jada was talking about the pivot. I've always had, and me and her talk about this, I've always had an affinity for boys and men. What happened?
No, we're good. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And in that,
you fell.
No, we good.
Okay. And in that, we've recognized, like, statistically, I believe the statistics are 1 in 4 girls are sexually assaulted before the age of 18. And the numbers are something like 1 in 7 boys.
Wow.
So that means that if you're in a room of 10 people, 4 females and 7 of the boys have experienced, or 1 of the 7 boys have experienced what you're experiencing or what you have experienced. And we leave a lot of, in the healing journeys and the let's do this and the cleaning ourselves up, we leave the boys behind.
We do.
Right?
Yeah.
We leave the boys behind, and what is very clear is that God had a relationship with Adam. And if you change the male trajectory, you change a community. You change a culture. They are the leaders. And I've been, and since that, and then since like Jada said, getting involved in school and then back to school and then going into the schools after graduation and realizing that the role reversals are nauseating. That the girls are acting like boys and the boys are acting like girls, and we just the goal is to change that trajectory.
Put it back in order.
Put it back in order.
You got to put it back in order. That's what we're up to. We're putting that back in order in our conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that a lot with my son. So he, when we go to festivals, because I do festivals for my business, and they'll have booths like books and booths for little girls, and they're like, you should come over. And I'm like, well, where's the little boy books? You know, who's advocating for the boys? Who's telling them to heal?
Right.
Because women want men at some point. Some women want men, right? And so obviously there's way more women than there are men, but they're all saying like, oh, there's not enough men, or where are the good men? But it's like, if we're not raising the boys to be great men, how do we get them?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so I noticed that with my son, which is why I think I got way more like passion for wanting to see little boys get what they need, because no one's advocating for them in the way that they're advocating for women.
Right.
We have a lot of empowerment.
We do.
Exactly.
Programs but
the men seem to get left out.
Yeah.
Left behind.
All right, we're going to take a quick public service announcement for Call Me Go, and then we'll just play Call Me Go at the end 2 times, since I owe them a total of 4. So we'll play them right now, and then we'll come back and wrap it up, and then we'll drop the Call Me Go 2 more times after that. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 10:50 a.m.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code. Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
All right, again, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. We want to thank Leslie and Jada for coming to hang out with us tonight. Before we get out of here, what do you want to say, or what can you say about what you're about to create, or what's your plans as your vision for the both of you? What can you share? Just a little bit.
So right now we are in launch mode for our podcast, The House of Rahab Ministries. So we will be on YouTube and Instagram shortly, probably maybe in the next month or 2.
Cool.
We are currently working on a parenting workshop.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it's important if we can teach parents how to parent the correct way. Definitely from the lens of biblical principles.
For sure.
I think the world would be a much better place.
For sure.
And you know, we don't know it all.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a parent of a 12-year-old. Leslie's not yet a parent, but we have both been parented. You know what I'm saying? And so we've been parented, me by a single mother turned aunt in a 2-parent household, in a sense, my aunt and my uncle, and she's been in a 2-parent household. So we have some sort of experience on some of the great things that we took from our parents and some of those things that weren't so good. And then as I am parenting, my son is teaching me a lot. He asks way too many questions, but they are great because, you know, I've never been a parent before. So this is how I learn. And so with that experience coupled with co-parenting with my son's father, not my baby daddy, y'all, my son's father, please.
Right, exactly.
It's definitely a work. It's been a work. So we are coming out with that. We're working through the curriculum now, and the goal. You know, Leslie's licensed, y'all. So I'm like the hood version of the psychologist. Okay, I'm not a licensed therapist, but I know all the urban terms.
Right.
So the Lord has licensed me. But gave her the real license.
Same
you know
here.
What I mean? And
Same
so
here.
She's working on her end to get it into the court system so that we can, you know, work with
that's
nice. The court system. So that's what we have coming up right now.
That's cool.
So I think maybe in the next month or two, we will be on YouTube, Instagram. It's all House of Rahab Ministries on Instagram, House of Rahab Ministries on YouTube. So even though we don't have anything up, you can still subscribe.
Can you spell that out for the
House of Rahab?
Yeah, spell the
So
Rahab.
house, like I live in a house, House of O-F, Rahab, R-A-H as in Harry, A as in Apple, B as in boy, and then ministries. And so for those of you who do not know who Rahab is, please go to the Bible.
And Jody said, get in the word.
She is in Joshua.
Get in the word. Get in the word. last words, Jody, before we get out of here.
I just thank God that you both came.
Turn your mic up.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's on.
Oh, it's
I'm just thankful. I learned a lot from you too. I just thank God that I came, even though I was nervous. But nervousness is a part of being humble, you know. And I just thank God that I learned a lot tonight. And the main thing is let's stay with Christ, and you know He'll stay with us. You know, I'm driven by Christ. Amen. Thank you all.
As you said, I'm not a therapist or anything, but using my life experiences, what God has shown me about strongholds and afflictions, those kingdom principles, He's allowed me to speak at churches and deliver those conversations. I wrote some inspirational reads around son to father relationship. A lot of times we look at the father's son, but we forget the son's father relationship or the son to mother. So I speak on both of those because I went to my parents for forgiveness. I didn't ask them to forgive, waiting for them to come to me for forgiveness. I went to them to restore that relationship. So Malachi 4, 5, and 6, I stand on that.
Good for you.
So we'll be back next month. Appreciate everybody for hanging out with us. Always very important conversations here. So at Farron Dozier, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you want to be a guest, shout us out. What's the count? Sickle Cell Trade Awareness, WDCO and STT.org. Hit us up if you want us to come out and speak at one of your churches or events. And we're out of here.
Peace.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Tune in to the Farron Dozier Show. Music marks a place and time, the soundtrack to life. Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCAA Radio. Playing the hottest hits and the coolest conversations. Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on the Farron Dozier Show. With an array of music, talk, sports, community outreach, and veteran resources. With hits from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today's hits. The Farron Dozier